Hey, good morning, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm talking to Garth Brooks.
Entering his second year as the LSU head football coach.
It was the only way I could get a foot in the door.
Joined by the icon, Kim Mulkey. Ace Coach, great to see you.
Jacques Talk is sponsored by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp and Couillon's Cajun Barbecue.
Well, we are very appreciative that the head baseball coach of the LSU Tigers has made time for us today. It, of course, is Jay Johnson. Coach, thanks for coming down.
Jock, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Entering your fourth year. That can't be right, can it?
It's gone fast. Been a blast. This is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of college baseball and has lived up to every expectation. And certainly excited to be here at LSU in Louisiana and part of our great community.
Yeah. You heard about the job. You grew up an LSU baseball fan. You watched the championship teams and everything. It's one thing to be told, yeah, I know what I'm getting into, so to speak, but how is it after 3 years on the job? Has it been, like you said, it's been everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, I'd say it's lived up to expectation. To be honest, I haven't seen a lot of things that have really surprised me. I think what was the draw? The draw was obviously the great tradition, built by Coach Burtman. The draw was the fan support, and I will stand by that we have the greatest home field advantage in all of college baseball, and we have a beautiful ballpark to play in, and there's just not many places in the country where college baseball is a thing, and it's absolutely a thing, and at times the thing here, and that's something I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, I heard the stat years back. They said something like, 80-90% of the college baseball teams in America play in front of 300 fans or less. And the ones that really care, they seem like they're all in the same conference.
Yes, that's correct.
That are drawing your Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, the ones that can draw over 10,000 for a baseball game. I guess I could just kind of start broad. What is it about the game of baseball that is so special, that is so different from the other sports where it's like, that's a baseball guy, Yeah.
I think it's something that, at least in America, like almost every family is somehow attached to the game. It's something that's kind of just part of the culture. And when you think about our history and you think about all the great players, all the great teams, whether it's been Major League Baseball, whatever, I think it's just something that identifies really well with America, and that everybody at some part of their lives has been touched on.
Yeah.
I think what makes it unique here is relative to college baseball, there's no group of fans, no state that is into their team as much as our state is into our team. And I'm grateful for that. When people ask me about the atmosphere here, often I say a Tuesday night game, which is a non-conference game, has an energy or feel like a super regional. Maybe not relative to the LSU people, but in context to anywhere else you could play in the country.
Well, and you did some things in the fall ball wise, where you go to Biloxi, you play Sanford, and you have 5,000 fans show up on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of football season, where these games don't count. You're not playing to go to Omaha or anything, but 5,000 people show up to watch you play baseball.
Yeah, very, very grateful for that. We have a very new team, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about. But that experience, we have, I think, 10 players that transferred from other schools immediately last year to this year to play for us at LSU. And a couple of them made a comment to me like, whoa, like this is different. And I think it was great for us to get that experience under our belt. And yeah, in Biloxi, Mississippi, I'd heard there was a really good LSU following over there, but to roll in for a fall game, and I'm 3 years into it. We've played in Omaha. We've won a national championship. Like, my heart was beating a little bit, and that's pretty awesome for November.
Yeah, and real quick, I've always said spring in South Louisiana is special. There's an energy that comes about. We don't have much of a winter here, but there's just something special about Saturday or Sunday at Elliott Box Stadium in March and April. Boil crawfish, all that stuff about watching an LSU baseball game. I know you're in the intensity of it in the dugout trying to win a game, but there's something about a fan who goes, you know what, if they win or lose today, I'm in heaven.
Yeah, I only feel that way if we win.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
But no, I think it's just remarkable. I think in my opening press conferences, one of the things I remembered is, promising like a brand of baseball that everybody would be proud of. But part of that brand of baseball is when that game is 3-3 in the 6th or the 7th inning, that crowd really lifts the team and creates that home field advantage and makes it really difficult on the opposing pitcher or inspires our players. And they absolutely do that. And that is, in some ways, exceeded an expectation. And I'm glad that people feel that way about that's the experience that they get at our ballpark, because that is special.
Yeah, well, maybe that was incorrect on my part if they win or lose. They want they want to win, obviously. But there is, like, you play 56 regular season games. Yeah. You lose Friday, okay, we come back Saturday. We come back Sunday. That's right. Football is kind of life and death a little bit with the 12 games.
Yeah, I label the season for our team a 56-game playoff. And in most playoff formats, if you lose, you're eliminated. So I hope everybody would see, at least in terms of how we approach the game, that our players are bringing it every night, like it is, a life and death situation.
When Skip took over, he said the good news is nobody cares, the bad news is nobody cares. And now I don't know if it's the bad news everyone cares, but the good news is everyone cares.
Yeah, I get asked this a lot of times, often by my coaching colleagues in the West, where you don't have fan bases like this, and they're like, man, what's that like? And it's crazy, isn't it? And I was like, you know what? As long as they continue to show up in droves and bring the energy and lift our team and support our team while we're playing, I don't worry about much of the other stuff. I'll take that support all day, every day.
Skip built this program with guys like painting the fences and cleaning the showers and doing a lot of things that to this day they say, I'm grateful he made me do that. Yeah. That's not your reality today in the NIL and everything. Do you still find the young man is drawn to Ellick Stadium, tradition, it's LSU? Or how much now has how much am I getting paid come into it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the way I've always explained it, or recently I explained it, I guess, is, let's say back in the 90s during that time, society was very different. Like, this isn't a college baseball thing is different or college athletics is different. Society was very different. And a place like this, a lot of times players would come here to want to be a part of this and what LSU baseball was and contribute to it in any way that they could. Now, players will choose a school of high prestige, of high esteem, often because it makes them feel good about themselves. And when you look at the world that we live in with the internet and all the social media, they're looking for self-assurance and self-gratification. And so then you have to work to teach them to place the needs of the team above their own, or to think outside themselves. It's not thinking less of yourself, because the big draw here is we're going to prepare you for Major League Baseball. And that's what the best players want. And that hasn't changed from the time Coach Bertman was here till now, where I'm here. But getting them to think of, maybe not think less of themselves, but maybe think of themselves a little less and put it all into the team and into the program that everybody's so passionate about supporting.
And good changes, too. Like William Schmidt, the young man from Catholic High. 5 years ago, he's going pro, right? Or is that kind of a new thing where we can get a guy who's, they're saying he's a first-round pick to come play college baseball?
Yeah, I've been on the good side of these before, believe it or not, but have lost a lot of battles along the way with professional baseball, including 4 this year. So this isn't like a time thing. Mm-hmm. This is a really unique circumstance where you have a great young man who comes from a great family, who comes from this great community, whose house is a quarter mile away from the pitcher's mound that he's going to be pitching on, And you're talking about with William, a player that, at 6 years old, 7 years old, he's running around in purple and gold pajamas. And, this is a very special opportunity for him. And, kind of how we talk about it is you're not choosing college over professional baseball. You're choosing college and LSU as your path to professional baseball. And so what will happen for a player like William, Kason Evans, Derek Curiel, these great freshmen that we have, instead of spending, a year in basically like an orientation to pro baseball and then extended spring training and then the really low minor leagues, it's freshman year at LSU, Cape Cod League, sophomore year at LSU, Team USA, and then their junior year, they're drafted and they're probably in the same level that they would have been had they signed out of high school and much more prepared to be a pro.
Yeah, and some people don't want to hear about scholarship and this and that. But I mean, I'd asked years ago, I think a college scholarship, if you stay 4 years, is worth something like $500,000 or something like that. If you stay in school and get your degree. And
well, not only that, it's, what a college graduate earns in their lifetime as opposed to a non-college graduate is over $2 million. And so for me, like, that's been the absolute bare minimum, talking about does a decision even need to be made. It would require a $2 million signing bonus. And nowadays, it's expensive to live. You're not going to live for the rest of your life on $2 million. So if you take that bonus and you do not have a college degree, you better make it to the major leagues.
Well, Michael Hollander, who played on the 08 World Series team, I think he did the minor league thing for a few months or whatever. I got $800 a week. I'm in a rat-infested hotel. I don't have enough money to even go watch LSU at the World Series play, right. And he's a lawyer now, done pretty well for himself. But, it's kind of skipping that process a little bit.
No doubt. Yeah. And, again, the preparation and the environment that our players get here, playing games that really matter, winning and losing, real life experiences, prepare them for professional baseball and life after professional baseball. And most of the players that have a decision to make between between LSU or the pros, they're going to eventually be pros no matter what. And so it's not giving up that opportunity. And so our staff, I feel like, values when a kid like William decides, hey, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to invest my time here. We're going to give him everything that we can. And it's really awesome when it's paid off. Really, just in the last two teams, our last two teams have signed for over $32 million in the Major League Baseball draft.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about the present, obviously, but then you point to Dylan Cruz and say, look at that guy. Look what he did.
Absolutely.
And Skeens and others.
Absolutely. And they're the best billboard you possibly could have for your program.
Yeah.
I've often wanted this to be, or continue to be, because we have a great set of LSU players in Major League Baseball right now. You mentioned Dylan, you mentioned Paul, DJ LeMahieu, in my opinion, borderline Hall of Famer. Alex Bregman, probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Aaron Nola, Gosman, those guys are competing for the Cy Young every year. So you're not talking about just getting to the big leagues. You're talking about the guys, in the big leagues have come through our program. And so what an awesome thing for me to be able to sell to not just recruits to get them to choose LSU, but to bypass professional baseball and come here.
I still remember doing a live shot with Coach Maneri in 08, the old box, that old third base box, and looking down the field, and he was telling me about this guy LeMahieu, who was at third base at the time, I think. Freckles, kind of pale-skinned guy, who is this kid? And he's pretty good,
Yeah, he was right on that one.
Turned out all right. Just looking at your team, veterans coming back, and I just look at Jared Jones, for example. His first year here, he struck out 69 times and 161 at-bats. Last year, he has 229 at-bats. He only struck out 76 times. So, obviously, a guy like that who's a big, strong home run basher can be feast or famine, but it looked like he got much better with his selection last year, and now in his third year at LSU, hopes are high.
Yeah, I honestly right now feel like he is one of the most underappreciated, undervalued players in all of college baseball right now. I didn't see him on one of the preseason All-America teams, and when you're returning 28 home runs in SEC play, with a high number of walks, and you're an excellent defender at first base, which I don't think he gets enough credit for, he's really developed himself. I think he was excellent as a freshman on that national championship team. He had 14 homers, 301 hitter. Hard to do, in the SEC, but he's trained. He's trained with a lot of detail. He's got a great mindset. He's been a very good leader, so far for this team. And one of the most positive developments of the offseason was him returning to school and not signing a pro contract last year.
28 home runs for him last year, 59 ribbies, as you said. You lose Tommy White, and I knew how good Tommy White was, but then you look at the stats and you realize not only is he hitting home runs, he's leading you in batting average also, and second in home runs last year, first the year before. So what, he hit 48 home runs in 2 years, 175 RBI. So how do you go about kind of replacing him?
Yeah, and I don't want to sound too much like the movie Moneyball, but the worst thing any one of our players could do would be to try to be Tommy White. Just like the worst thing any pitcher could try to do last year was be Paul Skeens, a hitter be Dylan Cruz. Those guys are generational players. They're not just some of the greatest players in LSU history, which is saying a lot. They're some of the greatest players in college baseball history. So we're not looking for one player to be Tommy White. We're looking for the improvement of the returners and the talent of the incoming players to work collectively to make up for some of that. Because that guy is a special talent, and we don't need anybody to try to be him. We need 9 guys who end up in there on that day to be the best that they can be, and that will be enough for us to have a good offense and replace some of that legendary production we got from Tommy.
Yeah. Real quick moment. I'll give a shout out to Matt Trent, who used to work at WBRZ. We're standing down in the tunnel in Omaha when you're playing to try to get into the national championship, and this game's going on. It's a marathon, and Matt Trent goes, I got a feeling he's about to crush one. And I swear to God, next pitch is when White connected and drove that thing over the left field wall, and helmets in the air, and you're going to the national championship. One of the great moments along the way with Tommy White.
Well, I've gone on record, and it sounds very shallow to say when the ball went over that fence, it was one of the greatest moments of my life. I felt something in my body I've never felt before. And, that was a special team, and he was a huge part of
that. Josh Pearson is back, and along the way, not to, be melodramatic, but his catch against Florida, game 1 of his national championship series, Ray Wright, against Stanford, 2000 national championship. That one's up there as well. But if he didn't catch the ball, you lose game 1, and you pretty much said we were not set up to win game 2. I mean, that is one of the biggest moments in the history of LSU athletics. This catch he makes, the ball is scorched. I'm like, uh-oh. And he somehow runs it down. And then after the game, like you said, his heartbeat never goes over 50. He's kind of, well, it's fly ball. We practice it, and I made the catch. It's just that's who he is, right?
Yeah. No doubt. Matter of fact, in my home office, I have a framed picture of him jumping up and catching that ball, knowing how important that moment was. And that game was full of them. And sometimes that game gets overlooked because of that Wake Forest game. But I've said this about Josh going into this season. There's very few 4-year players anymore. I think you'd be hard-pressed to look around college baseball and find another player who's had as many big at-bats, leverage moments over the last 3 years with the amount of big games that we've played in. And so he's about as seasoned and experienced player as you possibly can have. And you're right. He just has a great poise, a great competitiveness where, the numbers may not always add up as stellar, but he's a player I have a lot of trust and faith in.
Is it safe to say he's got some Eli Manning in him? Is that a bad comparison? Or,
I think, is he going into the Hall of Fame?
He's up for it.
Yeah, so
on those big
good
stages, Eli, sometimes it wasn't so great, but then, when the lights were on and it mattered the most, he would come through.
I think that's fair. You mentioned that catch. He had a 2-run homer, pivotal 2-run homer in the national championship game a couple days later. Huge at-bats last year. Had a great regional in Chapel Hill. And like I said, regardless of the numbers, Josh is a player I have a lot of faith in.
Now his younger brother's on the team also, who somehow may look older than Josh. I'm not sure, but big kid joining your team.
Yeah, John, excited to have both of them. I think they're excited to be on the same team together. Really good hitter. And what I appreciate about them is they come from a great family, great mom and dad, and I feel honored to coach their kids.
Dad's a firefighter, right?
He's a great baseball guy. Looks like he could do just about anything. I know he can teach hitting because he's had 3 boys that are really, really successful.
There you go. Michael Braswell, you got him from South Carolina. He came in 13 errors, batted .311, 36 RBI, 4 home run, pressure spot there at shortstop at LSU. Where is he at right now?
Yeah, I'm very happy to have Michael back. I mentioned we were fortunate to get Jared back. I feel the same way about Michael. I think he had around 18 or 19 doubles. So if you have the shortstop at LSU or an SEC shortstop, have that many extra base hits, do an adequate job at shortstop, normally they move on to professional baseball. He decided that he wanted to do this again this year. And, what an improvement from his time at South Carolina till now. And Michael deserves a lot of credit for that. He worked incredibly hard with our strength staff, with Coach Wanaka, and turned into one of the better offensive shortstops in the SEC. And those old 22-year-old players, and like we were talking about with Josh, are very, very valuable. And so, like Josh, he's played a lot of important baseball between his 2 years at South Carolina and last year here at LSU.
There's not much of a difference between a 28 and a 32-year-old, but there's a big difference between a 17 and a 21-year-old, right?
Massive.
Yes. In college ball. And I take a look at Steve Milam. He's back. And obviously last year in your postseason hit a lot of huge home runs, SEC tournament, NCAA regional. What about Steven, year 2?
Yeah, very excited to have him back. A couple things about him. He's a tremendous game competitor. And so when it matters, you like having him up in the box. You like having the ball hit to him in the field. I think he's our best defender in the infield. We're looking at moving him over to the left side of the infield because I believe that's where the most action will be this year in terms of the type of pitching staff and the type of contact that will be made. And, it makes sense to me. The best defender on the basketball team always guards the best guy. Well, why wouldn't you want the best guy where the ball is maybe going to be hit the most? And so he had a little bit of a up and down fall relative to injury and illness. So he's 100% healthy now, and I'm really excited to get back on the field with him.
On the pitching side of things, I'm looking, congratulations to Nate Ackenhausen, who graduated, I saw. And, look, your team in 2023, obviously loaded, but how hard is it to win, right? I mean, Ackenhausen comes in and saves the day, right? 6 innings against Tennessee. And it was funny that us in the media and whatnot were like, okay, we're staying one more night. Okay, I'm going to check my hotel one more night. You're living, day to day. But guys like that, just so important. Your pitching staff, I know you lost a lot of people there, but you brought in a lot as well.
Yeah, no question. I think we set an SEC record last year for number of pitchers drafted in one draft. I think it was 8 pitchers drafted. I think we had 9 signed professional contracts. One of them signed after the draft. So Coach Yeski did a tremendous job with those guys last year in his first year. That's a lot of talent and production to replace. And so we had to do it in high quality. We believe that we did that with the freshmen that we brought in and the transfer portal pitchers. And probably our best pitcher the entire fall was a junior college pitcher named Connor Ware, left-hander from Pearl River in Mississippi. And so the names are different, but I like the talent. We need to get some experience behind them.
And that's the thing about LSU, right? I mean, you can do the fall ball thing, you can do the spring thing, but until they're out there in front of 10,000 fans, maybe sometimes that's the deal, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I think what I have taken a lot of peace of mind in is what you need to do to execute is only relevant, or if you make it. It doesn't. The game doesn't change. People change. And so it's our job to help coach our players to have a strong mental game where if it's just you and me sitting back there talking while they're throwing a bullpen, why is that any different if there's 10,000 fans and they're screaming and yelling? And at least at this place where we're going to play 36 of the 54 or 56 games, they're going to be wearing purple and gold. And that's a good thing. All those people there, they're there to help you. And so we just try to help the players understand that.
Yeah. And then you go on the road and you play the in-state games, and those guys are ready to print a T-shirt if they beat you too. So
yeah, and I think it goes deeper than that too. Like, this is a great baseball state.
Yeah. And
there's more good players than people think, and there's definitely more good programs. And there are some excellent coaches at some of the other programs in state. Jay Ullman at Tulane's got them to the tournament the last 2 years. I don't want to leave anybody out. Lane Burrows, Matt Deggs, Justin Hill, LSU guy, Chris Crenshaw over at Southern, Brent Herring, one of our staff members now, the head coach at Nichols. I'm honored, honestly, to be a college baseball coach in Louisiana when you're talking about those caliber of coaches.
Well, on selection day, we talked to you about it, right? I mean, how many teams from Louisiana did we see go up on the board?
Yeah, and it helped us last year. We went 23-3 outside of league, and the fact that a lot of those teams had good years helped us to make sure we had a good RPI to be a postseason
Well,
team.
I know it's one of the local radio talk show points. Like, the National can always say, who's better, LeBron or Michael? Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Do midweek games matter or not?
Oh, they matter a whole lot. Like I said, it's a 56-game playoff, if you find LSU losing one of those, I can promise you it's going to be 2:30 in the morning, and at the Johnson house, somebody's going to be sitting on the couch staring at the moon.
Yeah. Oh, they could lose all those games. It's just the SEC that counts,
Not true. I mean, we were a solid 2 seed. And at the end of the day, we actually weren't that far away from hosting a regional last year when all the dominoes fell because of how well we performed in those midweek games. I think we lost 1 the entire season.
Yeah. I can't imagine any scenario of Jay Johnson losing where he says that's okay.
It's not okay.
How much do you sleep a night, by the way? That's one question I meant to ask. How many hours a night does Jay Johnson sleep?
You know, I'm actually a good sleeper, but when I'm awake, it's all LSU baseball all the time.
Okay. You're getting your 7 hours?
I'm a solid 6.5 to 7.5.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can't see you sleeping like 8 or 9. Like they say you're supposed to get 7 to 9. You know, it's like besides Kim Kardashian and people like that.
I heard that's recommended. Yeah.
That's one thing I always meant to ask Jay Johnson. How much does he sleep a night? So, okay, you've got some transfers, and you know, I can't go down every name and everything. I told Coach before the show I'm going to have to learn all the new players. But Daniel Dickinson and Anthony Ianson are 2 guys that were named to the preseason All-American team that transferred in. Dickinson comes from Utah Valley, 369 average, hit 27 home runs in 2 years, right? And then Ianson is a fantastic pitcher from UC San Diego. Excuse me.
Yes. Yeah, I'm very excited about those guys. Danny is a great player. I actually gave him number 14 because he plays so hard. He reminds me of Pete Rose in terms of his style of play. I think he's a player that our fans are going to really get behind really fast because of his hard-nosed nature, doing whatever he can to win. He's a very complete player. He can impact the game in a lot of different ways, offensively, defensively, on the bases, speed, power, solid hitting skills. So really excited to add him. I think he's a player that maybe last year's team was missing a little bit. And so very anxious to get him in the order and moving. As far as Anthony, very interesting story. I was up in the Cape Cod League watching another pitcher for the other team. And I saw this guy pitching, and I saw this nasty breaking ball, great fastball. And I go, man, who is this guy? And I looked at it, and Eric Newman is the coach at UC San Diego. He's a friend of mine. I just said, wow, that's great for Coach Newman. And I actually forgot his name completely. And you fast forward like a month later, I got a text from a scout that said Ianson is going in the portal. I literally texted him, who's Ianson? And then I put 2 and 2 together, and very happy to get him. He's a great kid. He's a great competitor. He comes from a really good family, played at a great high school, and really has come into his own during his time in college. I think there's some similarities to Luke Holman, who we had last year and had a terrific season for us. Definitely be at the front of what we're trying to do with the pitching staff.
Awesome. Yeah, and Schmidt's local highlights for us on the TV, the camera never moved because it was always just boop, and the guy walking to the dugout striking out. It's pretty exciting for him, but if you want to see the ball in play, didn't happen a whole lot. So,
yeah, again, special talent. I think the thing I appreciate the most about William is his competitive nature. And to me, he looks the most comfortable in his entire life when he's standing on a pitcher's mound. Yeah. And that makes his coach very, very happy.
Well, and I talked to you about before you came on the air. I'm looking at your schedule. There's different things to talk about with the schedule. Number one, look, it's just my opinion, which doesn't matter any, but I like the move, the early season games, play them in the daytime. You know, I don't think anyone really gets anything out of it when it's 30 degrees, freezing on a Wednesday night. It's 9 o'clock at night. To play a game, you know. I mean, so okay, opening night, or we're gonna have a compromise. Okay, play that one night, which you're not gonna do. But you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Of course, Louisiana, you've learned it could be 75, it could be 35. You can't really control it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. 2 years ago, so 23, we moved the game up, and we moved it up maybe 48 hours before, and got a lot of negative feedback seemingly from my administrators, like, hey, we got to be careful about doing that on such short notice. And I came down to one thought. Nobody really knew who Paul Skeens was at that time. He wasn't going to be throwing 99-mile-an-hour fastballs in 28-degree weather. And my job is to protect the players and the program. So we just made a decision, like, we're just going to make opening day, which we did last year. Was great. We had a wonderful crowd. Certainly hoping for the same thing this year on February 14th.
And there's a stretch there, like from late February to March 11th, where you're like a major league team. You're playing like 11 games in 14 days or something. You did this in 23. It's the same kind of model, right? Like in 23, you went to Round Rock. You played 3 games, and you went to Texas and played. Now you've got the Dallas Baptist thing in Arlington. Speaking of Paul Skeens, where he started the All-Star game. We were at SEC Media Days. We snuck over there last July, and then you're going to play 3 games in Frisco. Hopefully it's warm against Kansas State, Nebraska, Sam Houston. But you've got 11 games in 14 days basically there.
Yeah, I think it's great on several levels. First, the trips to Texas. We went to Round Rock in 23. We went to Houston last year. Going to Dallas, Frisco this year. Recruiting in Texas is going to be really important for us, and we have 10 players on our team from the state of Texas. I think it's those high-profile tournaments allow your players to kind of get a feel what NCAA tournament play is like or SEC play is like. When you're looking at Dallas Baptist, it's a perennial regional, super regional, 45-win team. It's a great opportunity. We're going to see great pitchers there. Kansas State was a super regional team. Nebraska is a surefire top 20 team this year, and Sam Houston State is always one of the best mid-majors. So I think we'll come out of that weekend or that week a lot better prepared for maybe what's to come down the line.
And the big SEC series, of course, coming into the box. I mean, one of the great memories I have is I think I was in Dallas. Yeah, Dallas covering Kim Mulkey and the women. They beat Virginia Tech to go to the Final Four. And you're playing, was it Tennessee?
Yep.
In front of a huge crowd, and everyone's roaring about the women going to the national championship, and then you win the game, and then 4 months later, after the women win the national title, you win the national title. I mean, that's a local sportscaster's career, covering 2 national champions in that period of time. But there is something special about the SEC games late in the year, and really, I mean, it's going to be the same thing, right? I mean, how many ranked teams, how many in the top 10 coming to the box?
Yeah, I don't even know. And to be honest, it's a very interesting place here where we don't really have a natural rival, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I have so much respect for the other programs, teams, players in our league that every weekend is basically this crucible like you're in the middle of for 72 hours. And you can't really look up. You can't look to the next day. You definitely can't look to the next weekend or the next month. You just kind of got to deal with what's right in front of you. So I know we have Missouri at home to open SEC play, and then after that, it's 9 more battles, like that. It's the best conference in college baseball by eons.
Yeah, and it cannot be an accident that LSU and South Carolina are playing the final regular season series of the year. Coach Maneri at South Carolina, you're at LSU. I wonder how he's going to deal with that. That's going to be really interesting. His emotions are going to be all over the place, right?
A couple of people asked me about it, and it's like all I know Coach Maneri is he was very nice to me in the 3 years that I've been here, and when I transitioned to this job, he helped me get off to a good start with just communication and those types of things. I've never played against him. I've never come close to playing against him, so I don't know a whole lot about him or style or any of those types of things. But again, we developed a good friendship here, and I'm happy for him that he's doing what he wants to do and is back in the dugout.
Yeah. Well, when he was coach here, he would often say, I really don't want to play these guys because I know the coach there. I don't like competing against my friends. And him playing LSU, the place he was at for so many years and had great success and won a national title and all of that, it's going to be amazing to watch. I mean, I don't need you to say anything about it. I'm just talking out loud. But it's going to be great theater, especially if it's the last regular season game of the year and somebody needs to win 2 of 3 to do this or do that. SEC tournament, NCAA, super regionals.
Yeah, I saw him not long ago. We had an event that we did together, and he's like, "Hey, promise me no matter what happens, we can still remain friends." I'm like, "Hey, Coach, I'm fine." Some of these other coaches in the league, though, I don't know how they feel about that sort of thing.
That was the Trey Ledbetter thing, right? Trey got the 3 national coaches together, national championship.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. I got a painting of all 3 of y'all. I need to get it signed one day and do it for charity. But a couple more things before I let you. Appreciate your time. Ellick Box, future, does it need renovations? Does it need things added?
Yeah, and I'm very thankful for what we have. First, let me say that. When I took the job, there was this thought of from the administration, we feel like we need to do some things to upgrade and improvement. And I would say, I need a year or two around the league to see what else is out there, but we can win with this. I wanted the people that entrusted me with the program, hey, we can get this done with what we have. Now, we're kind of on that. We were on the front end, maybe, when I say we, LSU, back in 2009 of the new ballparks. Well, a lot of programs have maybe passed that up, but what they don't have is they don't have our fans. And our fans make our ballpark. And so as long as they keep showing up, the box is great. I think the next phase for us is we have to improve our player development facilities, in terms of cages, pitching lab. We've made do very well with what we have, but that's probably the next thing for us.
Yeah, I think that's always the thing with LSU, like when they're talking about Tiger Stadium or whatever. There's kind of this feeling of, we're LSU, we don't need to do that, gimmicks or whatever, But there's the dance between moving into the present and keep staying true to our traditions and so forth.
And you can do both. And I think, when I think about what do I want this to be, I'm very proud of winning the national championship in 23. We obviously want to do that again. We want to compete to be in position to be in Omaha every single year. But we also want to be the training ground for players to go to Major League Baseball. I mentioned that great contingent of LSU players in the big leagues right now. That's what all the best players want to do. And so to attract that caliber of player, you have to be on the front end of those things. And so we're working on some things, and hopefully we can get that done.
All right, let's just finish. I just want to ramble while I've got the head baseball coach here about 2023, and just what an amazing 2 weeks to be there between the people drinking way too much alcohol or chewing the Jell-O shots with the record numbers there at that pizza place across the street from the park. But just the weather was tremendous. The games were amazing, and it just shows you how hard it is to win. Because Wake Forest was amazing. They were an incredible team, and you had to beat them. Was it 3 times you beat them or twice?
We beat them twice. 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
Yeah.
And look, it comes down to Trey Morgan charging that ball and flipping it and getting it to Milazzo somehow, and it's so hard to win. Even when you're loaded, even when you have that much talent, there's somebody who's got just as much. It seems like.
No doubt, and I really believe that team is one of the best teams in college baseball history. And obviously, I'm biased, but that World Series was amazing. It was my 3rd trip to Omaha. That by far was the best field, most great players, and it's been reflected in. Look at the guys in the major leagues. Paul and Dylan are in the major leagues. Rhett Lauder is in the major leagues. Hurston Waldrop from Florida. Wyatt Langford from Florida is in the major leagues. The talent on that field for that 2 weeks was amazing. It made the games amazing, and very fond memories, obviously, and gives you a lot of motivation to want to get back there and get this group of players to get to experience that. I talk about Omaha this way. It's the one thing that you have the highest expectation for in life of what it's like when you're there, and then you get there and it's way better than that expectation.
And all the heroes too, the Griffin Herrings, that he had to emerge and pitch the way he did. And are you playing Omaha this year just so you see Omaha against that?
Yeah, they have been historically another good RPI team to play in terms of finishing high in their league, postseason team, and like their coach, good young coach, and they've been very good to us. I'd say 2021 at Arizona, 23 with LSU. They've allowed us to practice there a bunch when we've been in Omaha, and kind of a little, they wanted to come here and play, and a little bit of a favor back for that.
That's right. That's just going off in my brain. Going and watch you guys practice at University of Omaha there. Well, opening day is Valentine's Day, and what an amazing day it's going to be on campus, because you open the season. Softball's got a couple of games, and then gymnastics hosts Oklahoma that night, the perennial national champion. So it's going to be an amazing day on LSU's campus that day.
Start with baseball.
That's right. That's right. Jay, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Appreciate it. Jay Johnson, LSU head baseball coach. Thanks for stopping by today, and we'll see you at the box. Take care.